Alright, that should be working. Okay. Alright, yeah, I think that I'm looking at it, this thing's like 10 or so seconds behind, maybe. So, let's see. Yeah, there we go. Okay, let's see. Everyone's getting this to work. Just need to spit that. Okay, so mainly I'll just wait till close, just like probably 10 more minutes, see anyone else wants to get in here. Just looking over, assuming we close like just under 281 a day would be what I would expect. Doubt we're going to get past 281 just because of all that selling right there. Just got headset on. Okay, yeah. So we're just going around with a couple of people waiting until close. Let me set up these charts and a couple different things. Yes, this is pretty. That one's pretty simple. That one did about the same. Easy below right there. Oops. Then that one would have had target like right here. Alright, so looks like, yeah, SPY, what is it, 280.61. Look at the daily, saw people saying diamond shape pattern. What do you mean by Cron did the same thing, went as soon as it got above that opening, 5-minute area up to here. And Facebook yesterday. Let's look at the 5-day. Yeah, right off of just like 169. All right, now let me just set up a few of these indicators on this. Let's see. CD, and then the stochastic slow, and then you can use the, spelled it wrong, Bollinger Bands. All right, yeah, and that should have most of it. All right, now, so if anyone talks in this or own the chat, I'll be able to see you. That way I can like interact with y'all. And I don't really know if, okay. All right, so as more people get in here, just if anyone has something specifically, like right now I'm just kind of watching the market waiting till close, but if anyone has something specifically they want me to go over or look at, just let me know that. I know that there were some people that wanted me to go over, one person said I think Facebook and SPY from yesterday because they moved, well, and they moved similarly, like about the same. And then if there's anyone that has questions just about options, I think I could explain that. I know a lot of people seem to not understand maybe exactly how to play them or like some of the pricing. There just seems to be some minor misconceptions that a lot of people have about that. But just like now would be a good time for that. So you can just say it to me in the Discord chat or say it to me in the YouTube chat. And either of those should be fine. And mainly aside from like SPY going somewhat sideways lately, I'll look and see if we ever break above this line. Yeah, it's like almost perfect resistance on it. Would you say VZ? Yeah, look at VZ. Because I know I talked about VZ yesterday, and VZ was the you were looking for it to see if it's going to above that break all-time highs, and it just went up to it, and that's why I said look for it to get above all-time highs. It went up to right where the top of that candle is, and then you can see that it just sold off hard from it, which is why own all-time highs like a lot of the time. If they have momentum, if they break the all-time highs, then it'll run for a little bit. And so that's why you would really wait until after it's broke it. You don't want to get in before all-time highs because they're pretty strong resistance. But if it does break above them, then it'll have a good pop and it'll go for a little bit. So for instance, so that's why on VZ you wait until it does break the all-time highs. I was trying to say something about it before it broke it, but like let me show you, because I think so Home Depot like a while ago, it had all-time highs right there. And so if you go to the 1 year, there it is. So when it goes up to it, like you can see it tested it, sold off, tested it, sold off, tested it, sold off, less and less and less. And then when it went above it, you had a little pop, and you just get out at the first red candle. And that actually, the only reason that pretty much stopped running was because of bad housing data. Like that was really when people started to get worried about like the economy slowing and stuff like that. But you just play that little pop, and if you'd gotten in on that little pop on that at the bottom of it, you can play that. They always have a little pop usually when they break all-time highs. But so anyway, that's how you could have played like VZ and why you're waiting for it to break the all-time highs. You don't want to get in earlier. So hopefully that made sense. And I think that so mainly just to go over something I know with BA, some people were asking like why buy it. Well, if you just look at BA because of the I wouldn't pay attention to these like Bollinger brands short term, but if you look at it long term, it's just like a really good company if you study the fundamentals. And mainly, I just bought when it dropped down on the gap fill, which is pretty much right there, and you can see we've kind of bounced all across that, and so like 365 is why I bought Boeing at that level. It's a good company. It should go. It should go up long term. I think pretty well because it has solid fundamentals, and so that was just like low resistance right there all the way down to 365, and that's why I bought at that area. And you can see a lot of volume, of course, come in because you had all that selling and buying going on the last couple of days. And I have Boeing. I have like $5,000 about, I think, in Boeing stock. So I have Boeing long, like I have the equity, and then I also have a Boeing put options. So that way I have like one put option and a lot of Boeing shares. And so that way I don't really have any risk because I'm effectively hedged. Because I would assume that if the news with the planes came out bad in the short term, so I have those puts for like I think they're like 6 months till expiration. And so it's kind of like having insurance for the next 6 months. Like my risk is extremely low, and I'd expect once they get cleared of that stuff to at least go back up to 420, which is where that top of that range is. So anyway, hopefully that explains that. That's one of my like actual long-term equity plays. All right, 1 second. All right, and now basically since the market closed, just want to look at so like today, not with Boeing, but if you go to the SPY, you can pretty much see that on the SPY, you really just had, let me go to the 5 minute, but it went up to that same, it went up to that resistance level and then it consolidated for a little bit, came back down, and when they consolidate, it always makes a big move off of it. That's that level from yesterday that went back down. So the SPY pretty much just had a sideways day, which means you're not going to make money off of that. But yesterday, if you were to play it, there was a whole lot of easy money, and that was just because SPY kind of formed a double top. You don't need this line. But mainly what I was watching was SPY formed a double top, it consolidated there, and so that second time hitting off of that level, you'd expect to get in puts on that first like red candle coming off, and then it went consolidated at that level where it consolidated the level before. And so with me, I had puts and I collected money right there, and then just got back in them as soon as it broke below that level, and it pretty much just rode that all the way down and then hit 278, consolidated for a little bit, and so that was a good time to get out of that. And you can see on that sell-off, like how do you know the second time is because you do have that double top on that nice level like perfectly, and then you have the MACD start to get a little bearish. You also have the stochastics start to look like it's getting near the top of that range, and if you look at the what is it, the momentum indicator, that would also tell you about that. And it just pretty much tugged once it got down here, the Bollinger brands, all the way down, and then when it hit the 278 level, which is pretty strong, it turned around and went back up. So the easy money was just playing off of that double top, look at this consolidation level to take profit, and then since it broke back below it again, get back inputs and ride it down like 278. And then once it consolidated at 278, you'd be able to go long. And you can see like 278 has formed. There it is. I didn't need to go that far back. But just recently, it has been bouncing off of 278. And that's how you should have known. Like I was telling people, if it breaks below 278, it's going to get really ugly. But it has been being bought twice right there, and then again right here off of those levels. And so that's why it was a good chance that you look at 278 for it to stop. And if it doesn't break below 278, then that's when you would either take money on your puts, like I just collected on my puts. I didn't turn around and go long, but it would have been a really, let's say, obvious sign to turn around and go long off of that level. And then you just ride it back up to the level you saw at the beginning of the day. And after that, it pretty much went sideways. Mostly, I was saying yesterday, so I was watching the SPY, but mainly I played Facebook and was telling other people to play Tech, but to watch the SPY. And that's just because Tech has a higher beta, and so it moves more. So therefore, you predict the correct move on a stock with a higher beta, then you'll usually make more money because the move is bigger. So of course, the options would move more, and so if you play the options, you'd make more money on it. And just I was going to say, like today with Facebook, you just had that gap, and so you could have played that for a gap fill, and that would have been easy money at the beginning of the day on Facebook. That's just like you have the top of that first candle, you wait, and right there it didn't break above it, and when it breaks above it, you go long, and you're just playing in the gap fill. And then as soon as it hits it, you get out. But Facebook yesterday, I played for a lot of money, and someone was asking, like, how did I see it? That's just because when Facebook came up right here, it formed this level bouncing off of 169. I know I have that line 4 cents below it, but basically bouncing off of 169, and so it came back up to it. It was above this Bollinger Band. You can see down here on the stochastics that it was getting a little bit overextended. And so you also have a resistance line, and so you had those three things all kind of pointing that, hey, this thing probably is going to get rejected here, and so as soon as it gets rejected, you just jump in. And since this is where it bounced the other day before it went long, that is where you're looking for this level. And you can just follow the QQQ and the SPY, mainly the QQQ because this is a tech stock. And so the QQQ keeps selling off, and this thing is going to have a tendency to be weak. And it went from there to the bottom of the Bollinger Band, then it bounced up a little bit and continued its way down. And so if you play this thing all the way down to here, then you had a pretty good little pay on intraday playing the puts. And without even looking to the left of the chart, like how would you know to collect money right here? Well, these are 5-minute candles, and if you see the thing going sideways for, let's see, like, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 40, so about like 45 or 50 minutes, if you see it going sideways, well, then just collect your puts when it forms a level. And if it starts bouncing off of it, then you can try and get in long, but it's just time to get out of your puts, and you wait until it breaks below the level. You just play that a little bit smarter. And I was just going to say, intraday, today you also had, I think, Home Depot filled that little gap down, and just the way I like to fill those, I know someone asked me about gap plays, but so you have the bottom of that red candle, that first 5-minute candle is where it'll form that line. And so without even watching any of this, like I don't care about any of this action up here, once it breaks back down below that red candle, you're just playing to the gap fill. And that happened within like 15 minutes. And it wouldn't have been a ton of money, but it would have been maybe, I don't know, like 20% or something like that. And that's just anyway how you kind of can play those. And then aside from that, just wanted to say, because someone had said something about playing, I think, options, and they were saying like they just played the cheaper options. And what did that mean? Like, how did that benefit them? Well, when you play the cheaper options, sometimes, like if you play ones that are way out of the money, like let's say the stock is trading at 190 and you play call options for like 250, and so they're at 1 or 2 cents. Well, those options are so far out of the money that if they have a close expiration, they're pretty much just going to fall no matter what, even if the stock goes up like $10, because the probability of it reaching the strike price of like 250 or something like that is still super far, that you will not get much of an increase. And so sometimes if you're just thinking, I'm going to play this cheap stock and play these call options, like it does matter which strike price and which expiration you choose. Because if you choose one where the probability is so low that a slight movement in the stock price up doesn't change the probability and make it any better, then those options are not going to move in the right direction. I know someone had said that yesterday, that that's what they had been doing, is playing the cheaper ones, and yeah, because of the theta on those, you will still lose because of the probability of it getting to that price has not increased. And just to say, like, someone asked sometimes how I choose some lines, like on Facebook yesterday. Like when I saw this thing was bouncing off of 169 to capture like the most of the move on the option. Well, okay, halfway down to our next level, which is, what is it, 165. So if Facebook had like maybe 167 put options, that's what I would want to get, because you're going to have the move going down here, which I know is happening like pretty fast, and 167 is about halfway between that move, and I expect it to go to 165. And so like a 167 strike price on those put options with a pretty close expiration, because this is expected to be an intraday move, would be what you would probably want to play off of those to get the most money, because at least that's what I would want to play off of those, because the delta, the amount of money you will get, will increase as they go towards being in the money, and then you'll get a nice little pop once they go in the money at 167. And you'd want to play a close expiration, because since the probabilities of it happening, say like intraday, of it going from here to here, maybe aren't super high, that when that move happens, you'll get that really nice pop, versus if you had a far out expiration, they're not going to move very much. But since we know the move's going to happen pretty fast, we're not worried about the theta on close expiration options. And then if you have something that you are swinging, like say swinging for a gap fill, then you can play those a little bit, of course, different. Like I know NVIDIA, for instance, had with earnings, I think it might have been earnings, yeah, where they gap down really far. And so once it entered that gap right here, well, this is a pretty big level from there all the way up to here. And so that, and you can see it bounced right off that level, like to a cent. But so those are not something that you would want to get like a day or a couple day expiration. Like for me, if I was playing this, I see halfway through it is 145. So I would probably get like 145 call options for say like either early March or really late February. I would, just because you'd expect this move is going to happen in maybe like 2 weeks. And so if I give myself, you know, a month and a half, then the theta on that is not going to depreciate it a whole lot compared to the amount of value that it's going to gain while it's going in the money and more in the money. And so you'd still be able to make money off of this. And that's kind of like how I choose some of those options. And so anyway, that's just a couple of the stocks that I went over lately, and I know some of the questions that people have asked me recently. So if anyone has any, I don't know, anything else specifically that they want to ask me, then you can ask me that. But there's just a couple little things that I know people have gotten wrong that they have asked me about, or a couple things that people have asked me to clarify when choosing options. And so I don't know if anyone else has any more questions, but I'll just wait for like, I don't know, maybe like 5 more minutes and look at stuff. If anyone has something, you can type it on the YouTube chat, or on the option chat, which I'm in on Discord. But anyway, that's just most of the stuff. Let me look at intraday and see if I can see anything else really obvious that could have been played. I know Boeing had this huge gap up yesterday because there was news, and then it's just pretty much went sideways and consolidated the whole day. Oh, and I was just going to say, so what was it? HUNT or something? I know someone had said something about that. Hopefully no one got stuck in this stock. This was a stock that had news, and it was just a low float, which means it doesn't take much money to move the stock. Low floats, like a low amount of money is really needed to move it. And so this thing just went up, what is it, 416% on the day, and then it got a nice T12 halt. So it is stopped right now, and sometimes those last for a couple months, so you can't pull money out of those. And someone asking like if you ever want to play these low float runners like HUNT or what is it, BTPH, I think, BPTH maybe? BPTH. Okay, well, yeah, Biopath Holdings, I think. So it also, within the last month, had that day where it was down here at $4 and went up to 70. I believe 73 was the high down the next day. Just going to say with those little low floaters, mainly on those, like if you just start to see a huge volume pop, when they're a low float stock, you can play a huge volume pop and they're pretty much always going to go for a little while. And so if you just ride that initial run up, like this one was at 248, and then on this day you had the volume pop. If you got in right there, it went to 7 something, which is still like over 100%. Same thing with this first candle. You have a huge volume pop. You play it and it closes the day. You know, it started out at 745, goes all the way up to like 1088. And it's not quite 100%. Then you have another day of this where the volume shoots up. And with these, this is when this one started getting halted. But all it is with the low floaters is you just need volume. And as soon as the volume dies, the price dies down too. And so that's why, like, a lot of people, they'll short low float stocks. That's really risky because you have to be able to handle the pressure of the short. Because like if you went short, say $10,000 right here, you know, just saying that this price wouldn't hold, well, way up here, you know, you'd owe like $70,000 to your broker. And so that's why people advise against doing it. But so anyways, with a lot of the low float stocks, since you don't need much money to move them, you can turn over the entire float of the stock, and that's why they just shoot up like hundreds of percent like that. And so volume will happen before the price does. And I think with this one, you could kind of know it was going to go because they had, I think, over 30% of the float was short. And so basically once you got that first little pop, they just kept getting squeezed. And shorts had to keep covering and keep covering. And then once the volume dies off, the price just basically goes back down towards zero. And with Hunt, I don't remember. I just know it was a low float stock, so you're mainly going to have the same thing. Once you have that volume died off, price went back down, and then you had the volume start to come in again, so the price shot back up, and then it got halted. And so now it has a T12 halt. No one can trade it. All right, but so anyway, that was just me going over a couple things. I think that was like 30 minutes, just kind of testing out this stuff, seeing how the stream and screen share works, and if I'd be able to interact with people. Hopefully that helped everyone. It doesn't look like anyone else has like anything specifically they want to say. So if that is the case, I guess that was pretty much all I was going to go over. Just a nice little like introduction to see how the software worked, and go over like some quick things that I have done recently.